This video is brought to you by A Better Route Planner, the route planner for EVs. Hundreds of cars are supported. Choose your configuration, plan your route with the charging network that you want to prefer or charging networks that you want to avoid. If you're a premium member, you can use real-time weather forecast and traffic information, and you can also use A Better Route Planner in your car with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Use the link in the description to support the channel and use A Better Route Planner Premium for 30 days for free. This is my Volkswagen Id.7 Pro. I received it on December 15th of 2023, and 2 days later on the 17th I did a range test at 110 kilometers an hour, and today it's a bit over a year and 19,000 kilometers later, and today I want to do a degradation test after a year. How much capacity do we still have left in the battery? I want to see. I was nice to Hank, name of my Id.7. I really rarely charged to 100%, only when we did a long distance trip right away. He was never at 100% for a long time. I rarely charged to 100%, always 80%. So I was really nice, not like with Walter, my ID3 before, where I charged to 100% many times and even left it at 100%. I was bad, but it needed to be done for many tests. I charged here to 100%, charged at home to 90%, preheated the battery to get here, because our goal today is not high range or low consumption. It is don't take a lot of power out of the battery, so a constant amount and not too much, so the battery doesn't get too hot, the motor doesn't get too hot, so we don't have a lot of heat loss. So what the consumption shows and the range shows should be as exact to the capacity that we can use out of the battery as possible. I have the numbers here from the range test last year of 2023. Battery is expanding because it's warm with charging, and so you see it was, what was it, 75 point something, 73, I don't know right now. I have the picture on the phone, so I know. You know already the capacity we had back in the day. It's not 77 kilowatt hours. It's not what you can, what the number the Volkswagen shows. It's what the range that I've driven with the average consumption. That's my range, and so the calculated range, full range of our test with the average consumption is then our capacity that you can use for driving. So I'm still preheating the car. I'm charging it and try to get the battery as warm as possible, and then on the way back I'm gonna preheat the battery again, because again the consumption is not important in the range we get. It's that the average consumption display gets what we are using, and that's fine, because afterwards I want to do a charging test if this has changed in a year. And also back in the day I did my charging test and started at 10%. I want to start lower than that, because I want to see the times from 10 to 80%, because I always estimated 25.5 minutes. I would love to do the Evolue battery test with this car like I did with Walter, my ID3, but Evolue doesn't support the Id.7, so sorry, I can't do it. I'm on my way. I'm driving 113. That's what I drove last year. It's also almost the same weather. It was just foggy down where I started, but up here it's very sunny. That's different. Last year it was foggy the whole time for the whole drive, and it was a bit warmer. It's -4 right now. Last year it was -2 to +2. But the most important today, it's not about the consumption. So this number here, our average consumption, that's not the most important thing. The most important is don't take a lot of power. The battery cannot be too cold or too hot. Then we don't have heat loss, we don't lose stuff. So that means that the consumption number that says in here and the range that we get should show the most exact, the most precise battery capacity. That's the main thing. Charge to 100%, like I said. Did I say that I drove 19,000 kilometers in this car so far? I can't remember. I have a bit of different settings today here in this car that I had last year. I'm not in eco mode, I'm in comfort mode, because again, consumption is not important as long as the car registered the consumption. I'm at 23 degrees heat, have the seat heater on too. I want it comfortable. Yeah, why is the other side heating up? Is the bag so heavy? That's new. What if I turn it off and on? Yeah, now. There we go. So just heating up my side because we don't want to waste anything also. And then you can see what's the range if you do that. If you drive 113, which is 110 GPS speed, by the way, that's why I'm doing it, and I did it the last year as well. So we'll see. And you also might say, why am I doing this anyway? You can read out with an OBD dongle the capacity of your battery, and this is correct. But for example, I have an OBD dongle, I connect it, and I have the app Car Scanner Pro, and when I do that, I can see the maximum energy content of the battery. And when I got Hank, it said 77,000 watt hours. So exactly 77 kilowatt hours. What does it say today? 77,000 watt hours. So this is not a real number. This is what the battery or the car tells you. It's not because it's not real. Because for sure it's totally normal for a battery to lose around 5% in the first few months just because of chemistry. So the battery that I'm having, a normal lithium-ion battery, I can't talk about other batteries, I have no idea, but a lithium-ion battery, when it's new and then it gets used for a while, like I said, in the first few months, you lose 5% just settling, the battery settling in with charging, with using power and everything. After that, your degradation should go down very, very slow. And the 5% is not set, it can be less or more. So it all depends on the battery and on the chemistry and everything. But we'll see at the end. You've seen in my graph, I don't get my graphic that I showed in the beginning, I do not get 77 kilowatt hours usable out of this battery. But there's also a buffer underneath. So when the car shows 0%, you can still drive a bit. I don't know how far, I never tested this. This is dangerous, and of course you can get stranded somewhere and then you have to get picked up or charged. So I'm not doing that. But when the car says 0%, 0 kilometers of range, you're not stopping that second. You still have a bit. I don't know how much it is, maybe 5 kilometers more, no idea. It all depends on the car and on the battery. But what I'm using is 100% to 0%, because this is also the capacity that you're really using for driving. Nobody drives under 0% a lot of times. You try to avoid that. I'm at 75%, drove 89 kilometers, that's 356 kilometers of full range if I calculate right. And if I take my average consumption of 206 watt hours per kilometer, I get to 73.3 kilowatt hours usable. But Right now this is very inaccurate because we only use 25%. For example, if I would only use, I drove 89 kilometers so far, it would have been 72.4 kilowatt hours. It's a big difference. That's why we drive the whole test, not just 25%, because it's the more accurate, the more I use of the battery. But still, it's okay. Haven't seen the sun since we were on the hill right in the beginning. That's sad, but that's how it is. It's a bit, but it's not extremely foggy. It's a comfortable drive. Since it's a holiday, no trucks, not too busy. It's all nice. I never had to accelerate, so never use a lot of power, never decelerate. It's very constant. Battery is already cooling down, and I could preheat the battery, and I will, because again this will show up on the average consumption. That's fine. It's not about range and consumption today. But I want to do a charging test afterwards, and I want to arrive at with around 7%, 8% maximum. Nah, I'd rather do it with 7 for a charging test after a year. So I looked at the data from last year, and the number on the bottom says 74.3 kilowatt hours usable, and I just calculated again, it's wrong. So in the formula that I put in, the math, it's wrong. It should be 74.68, so almost 74.7. And right now, where it tells me I have 73.3, it would be 1.9% degradation, which would be awesome. So we'll see at the end. We calculate it in the right way and compare it to the right number at the end. But 74.7 kilowatt hours usable when the car was new. So 2 days old and 1,000 kilometers driven, around that number. And today above 19,000 kilometers, and a year later, a bit over a year. By the way, I have my data for long term, and I've driven 17,333 kilometers. That was the last time this trip was reset. It should be in January or something, because I had only one software update on this car so far, 4.01. I'm still on 4.0, which is bad. Other cars added 5.0. I complained about this in my 11 month with the Id.7 video already. It's very sad that I'm still on the original software, no over-the-air update or any software update yet. Very sad. And my consumption is 187 on my long distance trip, but I've driven a lot at 180, and I did a lot of standing. So when you just park the car, have the ignition on, and I filmed, for example, a tour of Volkswagen software 4.0 in German, in English, which is 2 hours, and then the app and the voice command and other stuff inside the car where the ignition is on, and the car is still calculating average consumption, and still, since you're not moving but you're using power, average consumption is then gigantic, so 99.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, because you're not moving. So this is not amazing average consumption. I think in a normal used car it would be lower. Is there something that's broken in this car since 1 year? And yes, I had a few scratches. That's my fault. I made an extra video about that. The only thing, 2 things that are not working perfectly but still fine. First is the middle air vent here, because it can move. So it moves electronically. You don't move it by hand. You just say it here, and then the motor is using it. When it's cold and it's moving, then I hear a bit of a cracking sound. But I heard that on new cars as well. I think that's Id.7 sickness. And the second thing is this here. When I open this, it makes a noise. You can't hear it, but it's rubbing on something. I don't know what it is. that wasn't there. I don't think that was there when I got the car. But that's it. It still works. It's just rubbing on something, and it could be something I did. I don't know. I'm at 50%, drove 184 kilometers, so 368 kilometers full range. 201 watt-hours per kilometer is my average consumption. And let's see what that is. 184 times 2 times 201 is 73.97 kilowatt hours. That's even way more than we had before, where it was 73.3. So that's awesome. I will calculate the difference and everything to the capacity last year at the end again. But that is awesome. Great drive. I had to pass 2 trucks or campers, but I never used full power. I try to not lose any energy, and it's working really well. I navigated back to the charger. Car says I arrive with 7%, which would be awesome. The battery is cold, and so I'm heating it up a bit. I navigate to the charger too, so it heats it up at the end, but I don't want to have too cold of a battery, so we have loss. So when a battery is too cold, then you have internal resistance, and that I don't know if this is on the consumption number, but the heating of course is, and because of that my consumption is going up, because I had 200 watt-hours per kilometer, but now we're going also a bit downhill on the way back. But it's 107 kilometers to go, says here on the head-up display, and I have 138 kilometers of range to 31 kilometers of margin. I arrived with 6%, drove 346 kilometers, 203 watt-hours per kilometer is my average consumption. We're just having a charging problem here, so weird. It charges for 30 seconds, then it stops charging. It says in the car, electronic system failure, get to the workshop. It happened twice on that charger. Now I moved to this charger. I hope it works. I'm at 9% now. That would be nice. So far it's charging, I think. Yeah, 11%. I wanted to start at 7%. Now I started at 9%. Damn it. So I looked at the capacity. I calculated last time, so last year 74.68 kilowatt hours. Now I'm at 74.72 kilowatt hours, so more. And how can this happen? Well, number one could be that Volkswagen is giving a bit more capacity for your driving. It just gives you more. And the other thing is that it's not very accurate what I'm doing, because I try to be as accurate as possible, but maybe it's 5% but that I arrive, but it's almost 4%, and then 1% more is already a big thing. Or the consumption that it measures in the car is not perfect, but since I didn't have any software updates, it should be fine. But when I take these numbers, I didn't lose any capacity. Yay! Is it still working? Yeah. Still charging. Everything is fine. So I really think I treated Hank nicely, since it didn't lose a lot of capacity. Again, It's not the perfect test, there's always a bit of a thing, but I see that it's not a lot. That's good. And I hope that Evoloo comes out at some point, the Evoloo battery tester, where I can test ID.7. So far it's not available, which is weird because ID.3 Pro S has the same battery. So why not just for the, I mean, it's a different chemistry, maybe because of that, but very sad. The car is out for a year, they still don't have the tester. I have to ask them because I really would want to test it like that. If you want to follow me on Instagram, BatteryLife1, and if you want to support the channel, there's a Patreon link in the description below, and here on YouTube there's also channel membership. And if you want to know what's happening behind the scenes, I have a third YouTube channel, Behind the Battery. But that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching, have a great day and take care. Bye!